She cornered me in the ship and whispered, "You're the only one I want, human." The long corridors of the cargo ship were silent except for the faint hum of the engines. The human captain moved carefully, his boots echoing against the metal floor. He was used to being alone on his small ship, carrying supplies from one station to another, but tonight something felt different. He noticed the missing food packets in the storage bay, and he knew he had not eaten them. He had heard faint noises, soft like a whisper or the brushing of claws when he tried to sleep. At first he thought it was the ship itself, the sound of old machines, but the sounds grew clearer and sharper, like someone moving when he was not watching. The lights above flickered once, then steadied, but the strange unease inside him only grew stronger. He felt the weight of invisible eyes following him. His hand brushed against the small blaster at his belt, though he told himself he was being foolish. Still, the ship was his only home, and he would not let anything unknown move freely inside it. He searched every corner of the storage hold, pulling open crates, sliding aside the sealed containers. He expected emptiness, but the air carried a faint scent he did not recognize, something metallic and sweet, like ozone mixed with flowers. That was not the smell of cargo. It was the smell of life. He tried to shake it off, telling himself he was tired, but the feeling of being watched returned when he walked through the narrow halls. The sound of a breath behind him made him spin around fast, but nothing was there. The walls stood silent, the doors sealed, the air still. His heart pounded louder than the hum of the ship. He told himself again he was imagining it, yet deep inside he knew something was hiding in the shadows. It happened suddenly. When the lights dimmed for the night cycle, a figure stepped out from the darkness of the engine bay. He froze where he stood. It was no human. Her shape was tall, slender, and elegant, but her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, catching the reflection of the metal walls. Her skin shimmered with a soft color he could not name, and her movements were silent, fluid, like water flowing over stone. Before he could raise his weapon, she closed the distance between them, pressing him back against the wall. Her face was close to his now, her strange eyes never blinking. He could feel her presence, strange but not entirely hostile, heavy with something he could not explain. He tried to speak, to demand answers, but her hand pressed against his chest, and he felt a sudden rush of strength from her touch. She was strong, far stronger than any human he had ever met. She leaned in close, so close he could hear the softness of her voice as it touched his ear. "You are the only one I want, human," she whispered. The words sent a cold wave through him because they were not a threat, but they carried something far more dangerous: need, intent, desire. He tried to move away, but she did not let him. Her gaze stayed locked on his, as if searching through his soul. For a moment the silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the ship. He wondered how long she had been hiding on board. The missing food, the strange noises, the flickering lights, it all pointed back to her. She had been here all along, watching him, waiting for the right moment. Questions swirled in his mind. Who was she? Why had she chosen his ship? Why had she chosen him? The galaxy was wide, filled with countless species, yet here she was, cornering a single human trader on a lonely ship. Her hand dropped from his chest, but she did not step back. Instead, she tilted her head, her voice low, steady, and almost sorrowful. "Do not fear me. If I wanted harm, you would already be gone." The words did little to calm him. He tightened his grip on his blaster, though he dared not raise it now. Something about her made him hesitate, as if pulling the weapon would only make things worse. He noticed then the faint markings across her arms, glowing lines like veins of light that pulsed with every beat of her heart. They were not random. They looked like patterns, perhaps symbols of rank or bloodline. She was not a simple stowaway. She was something more, something powerful. The silence between them thickened again. She finally stepped back just enough for him to breathe freely, but her eyes never left his. She was studying him, not with the cold gaze of a hunter, but with the curiosity of someone who had chosen her prey carefully. His voice finally broke the stillness, rough and demanding. "Why are you here?" Her lips curved in the faintest shadow of a smile. "Because out of all the stars, all the worlds, all the beings I could have chosen, I chose you." The answer left him shaken. He did not understand. Yet her words carried a weight he could not ignore. He felt caught between fear and something else he dared not name. The ship around them seemed smaller now, the walls closing in as her presence filled every corner. She had hidden in the shadows of his cargo hold, survived unnoticed, and now stood before him with a message that changed everything. He realized his journey through empty space was no longer his own. Something larger, something dangerous had stepped aboard with him, and it wanted him. The human captain stood frozen, his back still against the cold wall, while the alien woman's glowing eyes stayed fixed on him. The strange words she had whispered lingered in his mind, heavy and sharp. He wanted to believe she was lying, but every detail, the missing food, the faint scent in the corridors, the quiet movements he had ignored, proved she had been there for longer than he realized. She had chosen to reveal herself only now, and that thought unsettled him more than the weapon in his hand. He forced his voice to steady. "You broke into my ship. You could have killed me days ago. Why wait until now?" She tilted her head, her shimmering skin catching the dim light. "Because I needed you to see me not as a shadow, but as myself." Her tone was soft but not weak. It carried the authority of someone who was used to being obeyed. He did not like that, yet he noticed something underneath her words, an almost hidden crack, as if she was tired of carrying her power alone. He frowned, gripping the blaster tighter, though he still did not raise it. "You speak like you had a choice," he muttered. "What do you want from me?" For a long time she said nothing. She stepped past him, brushing lightly against his shoulder, and walked into the center of the narrow corridor. She stood tall, the strange markings on her arms pulsing with soft light. When she finally turned back to face him, her eyes were not just curious, they were vulnerable. "I want freedom," she said, "and I believe you are the only one who can give it to me." The word struck him harder than a weapon could. Freedom? From what? From whom? He narrowed his eyes. "You could be anyone. A fugitive, a criminal, a spy. Why should I trust anything you say?" A flicker of pain crossed her face. "Because if you do not, we will both die." That answer made his chest tighten. He stepped closer, keeping his weapon down but ready. "Explain," he demanded. She drew a slow breath, as if preparing to uncover something she had kept buried for too long. "My people are not like yours. To them, strength is measured in silence, obedience, and control. Emotion is weakness. Desire is forbidden. I am not only hunted for what I carry, I am hunted for what I feel." Her voice trembled slightly, though her eyes stayed locked on his. "I escaped them. I hid in your ship because it was the only way to vanish beyond their reach, at least for a while. But they will come. They will search every system, every corner of space until they find me. And when they do, they will burn everything around me to ash." The human felt a shiver crawl up his spine. He had seen enough of the galaxy to know there were empires that ruled with fear. Races that considered humans dangerous yet primitive. If her words were true, he was now tied to something far larger than a smuggler's lonely run between stations. "You expect me to believe that?" he asked, though his voice was quieter now, less certain. She stepped closer again, her presence heavy but strangely magnetic. "You do not have to believe. You only have to survive long enough to see that I am telling the truth." For the first time he noticed how weary she looked beneath the strange beauty of her form. Her glowing marks pulsed more faintly now, her shoulders stiff as if she had carried more than one life could bear. She was dangerous, yes, but she was also running from something even more dangerous. His instinct screamed to throw her out at the next station, to cut ties before her enemies arrived. But another thought gnawed at him, the way her voice had lowered when she whispered those words earlier. "You are the only one I want. Human." He could not decide if it was a trap or a plea. He finally lowered his blaster. "If what you say is true, then I should leave you on the nearest planet. Why should I risk my life for you?" Her eyes softened, and for a moment he thought he saw something almost human in them. "Because my people are not only chasing me. They are preparing for war. Humanity will be their first target. They believe you are a species too dangerous to be left uncontrolled. If you send me away, I will be captured. If I am captured, the war will begin sooner. If you help me, you may delay it or end it entirely." His heart sank. She was not just a stowaway. She was a key, maybe even a weapon, and now she was tied to him whether he wanted it or not. He rubbed a hand over his face, frustration boiling inside him. "You could be lying about all of this. I have no proof." She leaned forward so close that he could feel the warmth of her breath. Her voice lowered into a whisper again, steady and final. Then let my enemies prove it to you when they come. And they will. The silence after her words was unbearable. He could hear his own heartbeat, heavy and uneven. He knew deep down she was right about one thing. He did not have long before he found out the truth. The alien woman stepped back, her eyes glinting with a strange mixture of fear and determination. I am not asking you to love me, human. I am asking you to keep me alive. But know this, she paused, her voice breaking into a softer tone. Even if the stars burn and the fleets rise against us, you are the only one I want at my side. The human's chest tightened. He wished she had spoken those words as a soldier, not as someone whispering desire in the dark. He turned away from her, his mind heavy. His future suddenly tangled in a fate he had never chosen. And yet, as the ship drifted deeper into space, he could not shake the feeling that some part of him had already begun to believe her. The days that followed were filled with silence, but not the safe kind. The human captain moved through his ship with sharper eyes, always aware of the alien woman's presence behind him. She did not follow like a shadow anymore. She stayed visible, calm, and watchful. But he never forgot how easily she had cornered him. Sometimes he would catch her standing near the viewing glass, staring out at the endless stars with a look that seemed heavy with secrets. He tried to convince himself she was only a passenger, an intruder waiting to be dropped off at the next station, but deep inside he knew it was no longer that simple. Her confession stayed in his mind like an echo. She had said her people were coming. She had said if she was caught, both of them would die. It did not take long for her words to turn into truth. The first signal came as a faint beep on his console. An unidentified ship had entered the same sector, traveling slowly, its scans brushing over his vessel like invisible fingers. He frowned, adjusting the controls, but his unease grew when he saw another signal soon after, then another. By the third, the alien woman appeared silently behind him. They are searching, she said. Her voice was quiet, but her eyes glowed with urgency. They will not stop until they find me. He clenched his jaw. You said they would come. You did not say it would be this fast. They move quicker than you think. Once they detect even a trace of me, they will send many. This is only the beginning. The human cursed under his breath and tightened his grip on the controls. He considered sending a false distress signal, maybe calling a patrol for help, but he stopped himself. If what she said was true, her people's fleet was far larger than anything humans had in this sector. A call for help would only bring more targets into their path. The ship shuddered as the sensors picked up a scan stronger than before. She moved closer, her markings glowing faintly as if reacting to the energy waves. Do not answer their signals, she whispered. If you respond, they will lock onto us. Stay silent. He wanted to argue, to tell her this was his ship and his rules, but the intensity in her gaze stopped him. Against his better judgment, he obeyed. He cut off all outgoing transmissions, leaving his ship drifting silently in the dark. The only sound was the steady hum of the engines and the pounding of his heart. Hours passed like that. He guided the ship through asteroid fields and narrow corridors of space dust, hoping to mask his signal. The alien woman never sat, never rested. She stood near him, watching every move, occasionally giving directions that seemed to guide him away from unseen dangers. Her knowledge of space routes was far beyond his. Once, when he was about to take a shortcut through a narrow cluster of rocks, she stopped him with a firm hand. Not there, she said sharply. They laid traps in such places. They predict the desperate will take the shortest way. He hated admitting it, but she was right. A patrol ship glided by the rocks only minutes later, searching exactly where he would have gone. His stomach twisted. Without her, he would already be caught. As the hours stretched into a full cycle, exhaustion pulled at him. He leaned back in the pilot's chair, rubbing his eyes. Why are they so determined to catch you? He asked finally, his voice low. She stayed silent for a moment before answering. Because I am not just one of them. I am their bloodline, their crown, their command. If I am free, I am proof that their laws are not unbreakable. To them, that is worse than death. His chest tightened. She was not just a fugitive. She was something far bigger. A royal, maybe even a princess or a military leader. If that was true, her presence on his ship was not just dangerous. It was world-shattering. You should have told me that from the start, he said bitterly. You would not have believed me, she replied. Her voice was steady, but there was sadness hidden beneath it. But now you do. The tension between them grew heavier with every passing minute. He wanted to push her away, to tell her she had dragged him into a war he did not choose. But another part of him, the part that had seen her face soften when she whispered those strange words, kept him silent. The alarm cut through the air before he could speak again. Red lights flashed on the console. Enemy ships were closing in, faster than before. The sensors showed at least 5, maybe more, moving in formation. His chest grew cold. There was no chance of outrunning them on speed alone. "Now you must decide," she said, stepping closer. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with urgency. "Do you trust me? If you do, I can guide you through a path they will not expect. If you do not, we will be caught in minutes." He stared at her, torn between doubt and instinct. Her people were deadly, powerful, and relentless. But in this moment, standing so close that her glowing markings reflected against the screens, she seemed like the only lifeline he had. His hands tightened on the controls. "Show me," he said through clenched teeth. Without hesitation, she reached over the console, her fingers moving with precision, setting a course through an uncharted route. The ship lurched as it dove into the darkness. The stars blurred past and the enemy signals began to fade. For now, they had escaped. But as silence returned, the human knew one truth. He was no longer the hunter of his own fate. He was the hunted, carrying a secret passenger who might change the destiny of both their kinds. And the chase had only just begun. Silence lingered in the cockpit after the sudden escape. The ship floated through dark space, far from normal routes, engines lowered to avoid detection. The human captain leaned back in his chair, his chest heavy from the tension of running. His eyes moved to the alien woman standing nearby. She had guided him through paths he did not know, avoiding patrols that should have caught them. Her calm under pressure unsettled him almost as much as the danger itself. "You saved us," he admitted at last, though the words tasted bitter on his tongue. Her glowing eyes shifted toward him, calm and steady. "I saved myself," she corrected softly. "But for now our fates are bound." He wanted to argue, but deep inside he knew it was true. If her enemies caught her, they would kill him too. She was not just a stowaway, she was a storm, and he was trapped in its center. The hours stretched on, filled only with the hum of the engines. He finally asked the question that had been burning inside him since she first revealed herself. "Why humans?" "You could have hidden anywhere. On any ship. Why mine?" She did not answer right away. She walked slowly toward the large viewing glass at the front of the cockpit, her markings glowing faintly against the starlight. Her reflection looked almost human in the dark glass, though her shape was taller, sharper, more graceful. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a strange weight. "Because I have studied your kind," she said, "not from books or records, but from the shadows of your colonies, the echoes of your battles, the way you survive even when the stars themselves seem to turn against you." The human frowned. "Studied us? Why?" Her gaze stayed on the stars. "My people call you dangerous, too dangerous to be left to your own growth. They believe your will to survive makes you unpredictable, uncontrollable. To them, that is unacceptable. They would rather crush your species before you rise any higher." His heart sank at her words. Humanity had always been considered a young race among the stars, climbing faster than most. Rumors of stronger empires watching them from afar had spread for years, but this was different. This was not rumor, this was a warning. "So that is it," he muttered. "They want to destroy us." "They want to chain you," she corrected. "To fold you into their empire, strip away your defiance until you are obedient. But you are not a species that bows." She finally turned to face him, her eyes glowing brighter now. "That is why I chose you, because your kind fights even when hope is gone." Her words struck him with a strange mix of pride and dread. He wanted to believe she was only saying it to gain his trust, but the tone in her voice was different. It was not flattery. It was admiration. Still, he was not ready to let go of his doubts. "You talk like you know us, like you know me. But why whisper those words?" His voice lowered, uneasy as he remembered her leaning close, her voice soft against his ear. "You are the only one I want. Why say that to me?" The question seemed to pause her. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Her lips parted, then closed again, as if searching for words that refused to come. Finally, she stepped closer, her glowing markings pulsing faintly with her heartbeat. "Because it is true," she said simply. "I could have chosen any world, any safe place to disappear. But I did not. I chose your ship, your silence, your defiance, Not because I needed a shield, but because I wanted someone who would not see me as a crown or a weapon. I wanted someone who would see me as more. The air between them grew heavy. He tried to look away, but her voice pulled him back. My people do not allow feeling, she continued. They crush it from birth. I was never allowed to want anything for myself. Yet here I am, speaking the truth to a human. I want freedom, and I want you at my side when I take it. The human's chest tightened. He was used to cargo runs, to long days alone with nothing but the hum of the ship. He was not used to being wanted, not by an alien fugitive whose people were ready to burn whole sectors of space to find her. He shook his head slowly. You speak like this is fate. But all I see is danger. If they catch us, it ends for both of us. Then do not let them catch us, she whispered. Before he could respond, the console lit up again. Another signal. More ships entering the sector. He cursed under his breath, his hands moving quickly over the controls. But this time the woman stepped forward and pressed a device onto the console. The screen flickered, showing a projection of fleet movements across star systems. He stared in shock. This was no ordinary scan. It was intelligence, secret information of her people's deployments, hidden routes, even their plans for expansion. This, she said, her voice firm, is why they fear me. Because I carry their secrets. If I fall into their hands, humanity's end will come quickly. But if I remain free, she paused, her eyes locking onto his. If I remain with you, then perhaps your kind has a chance. He looked at the glowing map, then at her. For the first time, he believed her fully. She was not lying. She was not exaggerating. She was the key to a war that had not yet begun. His throat tightened. You should have never come to me. Her lips curved in the faintest trace of a smile, though her eyes were full of sorrow. And yet here I am. And here you are. Together. The silence stretched once more, but now it was filled with something sharper than fear. It was filled with the weight of revelation. He realized his life had already changed the moment she stepped out of the shadows, and there was no turning back. The silence in the cockpit did not last long. The warning sirens cut through the air again, sharp and urgent. The human captain's hands moved quickly over the controls as the ship's sensors showed enemy vessels closing in from multiple directions. They were no longer hunting cautiously. They were moving like predators, certain of their kill. His chest tightened as he stared at the signals growing brighter on the screen. There was no escaping them this time. He looked at the alien woman standing behind him. She did not look afraid. Instead, her glowing markings pulsed with a steady rhythm, her eyes calm as if she had been waiting for this very moment. They have found us, he said bitterly. They were always going to, she replied. Her voice carried no panic, only certainty. Now comes the choice you must make. He slammed his hand against the console. Choice, you brought this war to my ship. I never asked for it. And now you say it is my choice? Her eyes softened. Yes, because only you can decide if I stand as your burden or your ally. The words struck him harder than the alarms. He wanted to curse her, to throw her out into the void, to tell her that his life had been simple before she whispered those words. But as he stared at the glowing map she had given him, proof of fleets, proof of plans to chain humanity, he knew he could not deny the truth. Her presence was not just danger. It was also a chance, perhaps the only one humanity had to resist. The enemy ships drew closer. Their weapons were armed, their formation unbroken. His ship was too small to fight back, too weak to outrun them. Every survival instinct told him it was over. Then she stepped forward, standing tall beside him, her voice steady and fierce. There is one way. If you claim me as yours, they cannot take me. By their honor code, by their oldest law, a bonded one cannot be seized without breaking ancient pacts, and they do not break pacts. He turned to her in disbelief. Bonded? You mean? You want me to claim you as if you belong to me. Her eyes met his without flinching. Not as property, as partner, as chosen. If you do this, they will be forced to withdraw. They will not touch me. They will not touch you. The idea sounded impossible, insane. He shook his head. And if I refuse? Her voice lowered, almost a whisper. Then they will destroy us both, and the war will begin sooner than you can imagine. The human felt the weight of the universe pressing down on his shoulders. He had never thought of himself as a hero, never wanted to carry the burden of anyone else's fight. He was only a traitor, a wanderer of lonely stars. And yet here he was, with the fate of his kind resting in a choice he had never wanted to make. The ship trembled as enemy vessels locked their weapons. Red light flashed across the cockpit. He could feel the heat of her presence beside him, could hear the steadiness in her breath even as the moment of destruction approached. She had cornered him once before in silence, whispering that he was the only one she wanted. Now the same words returned in his mind, heavy and unshakable. His hand tightened on the console. Slowly he rose from his chair and faced her fully. She stood proud, unafraid, her glowing markings pulsing brighter with every second. He drew in a long breath. "Then I claim you," he said. His voice was low, steady, but final. "You are mine, and I am yours." For a heartbeat, the ship seemed to fall silent. Her eyes widened, then softened into something he had never seen in her before. Relief mixed with something far deeper. She whispered only one word: human. The console flickered as the enemy signals stopped advancing. His sensors showed them halting in formation, their weapons powering down. One by one, the enemy ships began to turn away, retreating into the darkness of space. His chest heaved with disbelief. It had worked. The alien woman stepped closer, her voice calm but filled with something stronger now. "They will not harm us. They cannot. By their own laws I am bonded to you, and now their honor binds them to respect that bond." The human collapsed back into his chair, his hands shaking from the weight of what had just happened. You planned this all along." She shook her head. "No, I hoped, but the choice was always yours." He looked at her, searching for lies, but found only truth in her glowing eyes. She had not forced him. She had cornered him with fate, yes, but the final step had been his. Silence filled the cockpit once more, though now it carried a different weight. The danger had passed, but the path ahead was no longer his own. He was no longer a simple traitor drifting between stars. He was bonded to someone who carried the secrets of an empire, someone who had chosen him not by chance but by intent. She leaned closer, her whisper soft, almost tender. "From this moment, my people will follow you. Whether you wish it or not, human, you are no longer alone." Her words struck him deep, leaving him shaken. He wanted to deny it, to pretend life could return to what it had been before. But as the ship drifted silently through the vast dark, he knew the truth. His life had changed forever the moment she had whispered those first words in the corridor. "You are the only one I want," she had said then. Now those same words felt less like desire and more like destiny. And destiny, he realized, had chosen him whether he wanted it or not.